light of day arises, all those little rationalizations go once we realize, wow, what if everyone was about to engage in the behavior I'm engaging in? And that's what makes this so amazing. And in a sense, you might say, better than the golden rule. Questions, comments on this? Okay, well, that was quick. Well, it's pretty easy theory, really. Yes, go ahead.
Well, okay. I mean, you can't, like, look back at history. You can't know all people in all situations. So wouldn't that kind of make your reason faulty?
No, you're not basing it on what all people in all situations have done. It's what they should do. Give me a dilemma.
But like, things change, you know? Like people aren't the same.
Not in Königsberg, they don't change. But no, I see your point. It's just like, well, what if society changes? What if our values change? What if our general idea of what's right and wrong changes? Isn't that going to change how you're going to think about all people, all places, at all times? Kant thinks reason, he sees reason as transcending culture. An ethical relativist would have a fit with this theory because they would say people don't reason the same, Kant. And I guess we could start with these for some pros. Kant's retort would be like, that's true. Some people reason incorrectly. You could say, well, I'm reasoning right, you're reasoning wrong. And he said, who wrote the book on it? Who wrote 2 books on it? Okay. In fact, Kant was so reasonable, so rational, that most of the other contemporary philosophers of Europe couldn't understand his writings. And so he had to write a prolegomena to a future of morals, or prolegomena, like a forerunner to his book, to explain what his book was about. And at the end of it, he said, and if you can't understand this, don't feel bad, because the country needs ditch diggers and bakers and, horse drivers. Not everyone was meant to be a philosopher. So, if you can't reason correctly or you find this too difficult, then maybe you need to let a philosopher help you make decisions. But Kant really believes a child can do this. And then if it gets real nitty-gritty, I mean, he's provided the tools if you want to really get down to the brass tacks of reasoning correctly and how to apply that reason correctly to the world. He believes reason should cut across all cultures and all that sort of thing. He would judge other cultures by reason. He would say, this culture is more reasonable than this culture, and thus this culture is making better decisions. He's not buying this, it's, well, when in Rome, do as the Romans. He would judge the Romans not on Roman culture and standards, but on the standard of reason. And depending on how well they lived up to the light of reason, he would say they were a high or a low culture. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So he's not going with any of this ethical relativism stuff. But he wouldn't even acknowledge, I don't know if he would acknowledge that men and women think differently or reason differently, but he would hold them to the same standard. There's one standard of reason that would apply to men and women. Which that could be tricky because and I hope this doesn't come off as chauvinistic or anything, but over the years I've begun to discover that men and women do not think the same. And I could be wrong there, but I don't think so. Yes?
And according to Kant, where would our moral values come from? Is that just kind of common usage or something like that? What people believe is.
Where's our reason come from? It comes from reason.
Why would you consider good? Because if we talk to a sadist, he thinks killing people is good. So So,
Okay, well, let's see, let's check it out. Let's plug it into the categorical imperative. Would I want all people, at all places, at all times, to get pleasure out of harming or killing others?
well, say
No.
they would.
Yeah, their reason is warped and perverse and twisted, yeah.
Does he offer any guidelines to judge if someone has a warped reason or a theological reason, or is he just always subjective?
Yeah, that's what this book is about, the critique of pure reason. And it's thorough. It's very thorough.
So in there, does he go into the detail about a broad category when you start getting subjective and you might want to switch sides? Like that whole line when there's Jews hiding and the Nazis are knocking on the door.
I don't think so. And that's where it could get tricky. And so, Kant is seeing everyone kind of having the same reason. I would say, and this is before really we had the formal study of anthropology, or at least cultural anthropology like we have today. And I don't know, I don't think he got out much. I don't think he knew many people outside of his university town. And I would dare say, maybe in Königsberg, Germany, where you had a lot of intellectuals and scholars and very straightforward, dutiful, punctual Germans living in this town, this might have been a really great theory for those people. It's kind of like an ivory tower philosophy theory. But my concern is what happens once you come down to the common people in the streets. I don't think they're making their decisions based on reason. And Kant will simply say, right, that's why they're making such bad